The cold silence of space stretched endlessly around the small human spaceship, the Aurora. Its hull shimmered faintly against the backdrop of distant stars, moving steadily toward a distant point in the void. Inside the ship's control room, Commander Miradan stared intently at the blinking red alert on the main console. The signal was unlike anything they had ever seen before, a desperate call for help from a planet called Zira Prime. Located in a far-off galaxy, the message was short but filled with raw emotion. "Help us. Our world dies. The invaders burn our homes, please. Do not ignore our plea." The voice was broken, filled with fear and pain, but also a strange urgency that stirred something deep inside Mira's chest. The signal repeated itself, on a loop, each time growing more distorted, as if something was trying to break through but failing. The rest of the crew gathered around, faces pale but determined. Navigator Jox leaned forward, studying the star maps. "Zira Prime is far beyond our usual patrol routes. No known allies nearby. If this is a trap, it's not a trap," Mira cut in, her voice steady. "It's a call for aid. We can't turn away." But doubt hung heavy in the air. The memory of past missions haunted them, the ones where Earth sent help, only to watch planets fall into worse chaos. Was this any different? The message felt real. Too real. Yet, the shadows in space were long. Danger often hid behind the brightest signals. As the Aurora changed course, heading toward Zira Prime, the crew braced themselves. The unknown awaited, and whatever was waiting on that dying world would test them beyond anything they had faced before. But for now, the signal pulsed again, urgent and impossible to ignore. The Aurora drifted closer to Zira Prime, a blue-green orb scarred by dark, jagged lines of destruction. Through the ship's windows, the crew could see vast stretches of burned forests, shattered cities, and skies thick with ash. The distress signal grew stronger, but more broken. Like a voice barely holding on, Commander Miradan gathered her team in the small briefing room. "We don't know what we'll find," she said, her voice low but firm, "but we have to be ready for anything. Our priority is to help the survivors and to find out who or what caused this." Jox pulled up data from the ship's sensors. "The planet's atmosphere is unstable. Radiation levels are high in some areas. There are still pockets of life, small settlements, maybe. We'll send scouts first," Mira decided. "Get eyes on the ground before we risk the entire crew." The scouts were a small, experienced group: Reyes, the sharp-eyed pilot, Leela, the medic, and Aaron, the tech specialist. Their shuttle dropped through the heavy clouds, buffeted by storms that cracked with lightning. Below, the ground was a patchwork of fire and ruin, but faint signs of life flickered like fragile candles in the darkness. When the scouts touched down near a ruined village, the silence wrapped around them like a thick blanket. No voices, no movement, just the whisper of wind through broken walls. Lila moved carefully, checking for survivors, while Reyes scanned the horizon. Suddenly, a weak voice called out a child, hidden under rubble. Trembling with fear, they found more survivors, scattered and broken, but alive. Their faces told stories of horror attacks in the night, soldiers burning homes, families torn apart. One elder stepped forward, her eyes sharp and tired. "The invaders came from the north," she whispered. "They took everything. Our weapons failed, our cries were lost." The scouts relayed the information back to the Aurora. Mira listened, her jaw tight. "We're not just dealing with a war," she said. "Something else is here, something that's breaking their will and maybe ours too." Back on the ship, the crew worked to decode more of the distress signal. Hidden beneath the pleas for help, they found strange patterned symbols that did not match any known language, almost like a warning. The more they uncovered, the deeper the mystery grew. Suddenly, alarms blared. The ship shook violently as an unknown object appeared on the sensors, fast, silent, and closing in quickly. "Araz." Voice cut through the chaos. "Prepare for contact." This mission just got a lot more dangerous. The tension inside the Aurora tightened like a coil, ready to snap. Outside the windows, the mysterious object moved with terrifying speed, no sound but the pulsing glow it left behind. The crew scrambled to their stations as the ship's shields flared, preparing for impact or worse. Commander Mira's voice was calm but urgent. Raise shields to full. Scan for weapons or signs of life. We don't know if it's friend or foe. On the view screen, the object resolved into a sleek craft black, almost invisible against the stars, except for the eerie blue light pulsing from its core. It was unlike anything the crew had seen before. No markings, no signals, no response. 2 hails. The ship lurched as a pulse of energy hit the Aurora's shield, sending a shockwave through the control room. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered. Reyes gritted his teeth, gripping the controls tight. They're testing us. Mira steadied herself. We're here to help Zyra Prime, but if this ship means harm, we won't back down. Well, the object sent out a beam of light, scanning the Aurora from bow to stern. The sensors went wild, data streaming in too fast to process. Then, just as quickly, the ship vanished, disappearing into the darkness. The crew let out a collective breath, but the silence that followed was worse than the attack. No communication. No clues. Only the fading echo of the unknown visitor. Meanwhile, on Zyra Prime's surface, the scouts moved cautiously through the ruins, haunted by shadows that seemed to shift just beyond sight. Survivors told stories of the Watchers, silent. Shapes that appeared before attacks, their eyes glowing with cold light. Lila treated wounds with hands steady, but heart racing. There's something unnatural here, she said quietly. Right. Not just war, but fear itself. Aaron's equipment crackled. Sensors pick up energy spikes and patterns almost like a signal, but it's too strange to decode. As night fell over the broken planet, the darkness came alive with whispers and eyes watching from the shadows. The aid they hoped for had arrived, but so had something worse. Something that moved in silence and struck without warning. Back on the Aurora. Myra stared at the black screen where the mysterious ship had vanished. The plea for help was clear. But the answer might cost them everything. The day after this strange encounter, the Aurora hovered silently above Zyra Prime's shattered surface. Commander Mira called a meeting with her officers. The tension was thick, and the fear of the unknown weighed on every face. We came here to help, Mira said firmly. But it's clear this war is not just between the invaders and the survivors. Something else is at play. She looked around the room. We need to find out what this something else is before it's too late. Aaron, the tech specialist, displayed the data on the holoscreen. The energy spikes we detected on the surface are growing stronger. They're linked to ancient structures scattered across Zyra Prime ruins that don't match any known civilization. Lila's voice was quiet but urgent. Survivors told us stories of shadows that move, without bodies, voices that call in the night, and a sickness that spreads faster than any wound. Mira frowned. Could these be side effects of the war, or something awakened by it? Before anyone could answer, the ship shook violently. Alarms blared as power flickered. Rhea shouted from the pilot station, "Incoming! Multiple fast-moving objects approaching." The crew rushed to battle stations. Outside the ship, swarms of small, dark drones darted toward them, silent but deadly. The Aurora's shields flared as they fired pulses of energy, but the drones kept coming relentless. "Precise!" Mira barked orders. "Focus fire on the drones. Keep the ship steady." Amid the chaos, the communication console crackled with a new message, a strange code embedded beneath the static. Aaron worked fast to decode it. "It's a warning," he said. "From the invaders? From Zyra Prime itself. The planet is fighting back." Suddenly, a massive energy wave exploded from the planet's surface, hitting the Aurora and sending it spinning out of control. Systems failed. Lights went dark, and the crew was thrown into silence. When the emergency lights flickered on, the ship was damaged but still alive. Myra's voice was steady, but her eyes held the weight of fear. Zyra Prime is alive. It's angry. The Aurora drifted low over the scarred surface of Zyra Prime, its hull battered but still holding. Inside, tension ran high as the crew worked to repair the ship and make sense of the growing threat. Commander Mira Dane refused to let fear take hold, though the unknown pressed on her mind like a shadow. The survivors below had grown more desperate. Their faces, once hopeful when the humans arrived, now showed suspicion and fear. The strange energy pulses from the planet were changing. Some fell ill, others became restless, their eyes hollow and distant. Reyes landed the shuttle near one of the ancient ruins that Aaron had marked on the maps. The ruins were enormous, covered in strange symbols glowing faintly under the planet's pale sun. The air was thick with a heavy silence that made every step feel like a risk. "We need answers," Mira said quietly as the team stepped into the shadow of the ruins. Lila scanned the area, sensing something unnatural. Suddenly a voice echoed. In the empty space, not spoken aloud, but felt deep inside their minds. "Leave now, or face the wrath." The team froze. Aaron whispered, "It's the planet itself, or something inside it." As they explored deeper, they found ancient machines buried beneath the stone, pulsing with life. Somehow, the war and the aid they brought had awakened a force, long forgotten, a force that now saw all living beings as threats. Back on the Aurora, tensions exploded among the crew. Some wanted to withdraw, fearing the mission was lost. Others, led by Mira, believed they had to stand and fight, not just for the survivors, but to stop the darkness spreading from Zyra Prime. In the shadows, a traitor among the crew worked, silently sabotaging communications and leaking information to the invaders. Their plan was to turn this mission into a disaster. As night fell, the boundary between friend and enemy blurred. The help that was meant to save Zyra Prime was now part of the nightmare itself. And the real war was only just beginning. The air was heavy with tension aboard the Aurora as the crew faced the darkest hour yet. Commander Mira Dane paced the bridge, her mind racing through every piece of information they had gathered. Zyra Prime was no longer just a planet in distress. It had become a battleground of forces beyond their understanding. Aaron's latest scans revealed something chilling. Deep beneath the ruins, buried under layers of rock and time, lay an ancient power, a slumbering entity that the war and the human intervention had stirred awake. This force was alive, connected to the planet itself, and it did not distinguish friend from foe. To it, all life was a threat. Leela stood nearby, her face pale but determined. The sickness spreading among the survivors, it's linked to this force. It twists the mind, turning hope into fear, loyalty into betrayal. Myra clenched her fists. Must find a way to stop it before it consumes everyone. Outside, the planet responded violently. Tremors shook the surface. Ancient trees cracked and fell, and strange glowing storms erupted, pulsing with energy. The survivors huddled in their shelters, praying or weeping as their world seemed to fight back against itself. The team decided to descend to the heart of the ruins, where the source of the power pulsed strongest. Reyes piloted the shuttle carefully through swirling storms and falling debris, the ship buffeted by winds that seemed almost alive. When they landed, a chilling silence greeted them. The ruins were vast, covered in strange symbols that glowed faintly like the veins of the planet itself. As they moved deeper, the voice they had heard before returned. Clearer this time, a low, booming warning that shook the very ground. "You who awaken the sleeping must pay the price." Suddenly, the air around them shimmered, and shadowy figures materialized, guardians of the ancient power. They were neither alive nor dead, spirits bound to protect the planet's secret. Their eyes glowed with cold fire as they advanced. The crew fought bravely, using every weapon and tactic they had, but the guardians were relentless. Lila's healing skills saved lives, but the battle was wearing them down. Aaron realized the only way to stop the force was to shut down the ancient machines controlling it, but to do so meant risking the collapse of the entire ecosystem. Back on the Aurora, the traitors' sabotage had grown bolder. Communications were jammed, supplies went missing, and the invaders took advantage of the chaos, launching surprise attacks. The crew's unity cracked under pressure, suspicion poisoning their ranks. Myra's voice cut through the tension, firm and commanding. "We are not just fighting invaders, we are fighting for the soul of Zyra Prime, and for our own survival. We stand together, or we fall apart." As the battle at the ruins reached its peak, the ancient force reacted violently. The ground trembled, storms roared, and energy blasts threatened to tear the planet asunder. The crew knew they were racing against time to stop a force that could destroy everything they fought to save, the fate of Zyra Prime. And perhaps the galaxy itself hung in the balance. Darkness pressed down on Zyra Prime like a living thing. The skies boiled with violent storms, flashes of lightning tearing through heavy clouds as the ancient force awakened fully. Its power pulsed beneath the surface, shaking the planet too. Its core, the Aurora's crew prepared for what could be the last battle, not just against the invaders or the shadows, but against the planet's own fury. Commander Myra Dane stood with the survivors, their faces worn but fierce. "This is our last chance," she said, her voice steady. "We fight together, or we all die." The invading army, sensing the planet's instability, launched a massive assault on the human and Zyra Prime resistance forces. Explosions lit the night and laser fire cracked through the air, but the fight was far from simple. The ancient power stirred strange creatures from the depths, massive beasts made of rock and energy. Breaking through the ruins to join the chaos, Reyes piloted the shuttle through the chaos, dropping supplies and evacuating the wounded. Lila worked tirelessly, treating burns and wounds, her hands steady despite the horror around her. Aaron, meanwhile, scrambled to reach the core control chamber beneath the ruins, where the ancient machines thrummed with a dark energy. Inside the chamber, the walls pulsed with light as Aaron worked furiously. Every second brought the planet closer to destruction. The ancient force fought back, tendrils of energy lashed out, trying to stop him. Sweat dripped down his face as he focused, fingers flying over controls older than any human technology. Outside, Kane, the leader of the Zyra resistance, rallied his fighters. "Hold the line," he shouted, firing at invaders and monsters alike. His voice was a beacon of hope, cutting through the fear. Suddenly, the traitor's sabotage exploded into open betrayal. Communications went dead, leaving the defenders blind. Supplies were destroyed, and enemy reinforcements surged through a hidden route. The walls began to fall. Mira's heart pounded as she realized the depth of the danger. "We can't lose now. Not after all this." Just when it seemed all hope was lost, Aaron's fingers hit the final sequence. The ancient machine shuddered, then began to power down, the planet's fury slowly calming. The beasts collapsed into dust, the storms eased, and the ground stilled. The invaders, seeing their advantage disappear, retreated in chaos. The survivors cheered. But the cost was clear: many were lost, and the planet itself was forever changed. The Aurora's crew and Zyra Prime's fighters stood together. Battered but alive, Myra looked out at the dawn breaking over the horizon. "This battle is over," she said quietly, "but the war for this world and the galaxy has only just begun." The dawn on Zyra Prime was both beautiful and haunting. The skies cleared, revealing a scarred but still vibrant world struggling to breathe after the chaos. Survivors wandered among the ruins, some weeping, others quietly rebuilding. The Aurora floated silently above, its crew exhausted but alive. Commander Myra Dane stood on the observation deck, staring at the fragile piece below. The ancient force was quiet now, contained but not destroyed. She knew this was only a temporary, brief pause. In a much larger storm, the traitor's identity had been revealed in the aftermath, a crew member twisted by fear and greed, whose betrayal had almost doomed them all. Justice was swift, but measured. Trust, once broken, would take much longer to heal. Aaron worked alongside the planet's engineers, studying the ancient machines to understand how to prevent the force from awakening again. Lila tended to the survivors, helping heal both bodies and spirits. Reyes kept watch, ready for any new threat that might come from the stars, as the Aurora prepared to leave. A new signal blinked on the console, another distress call, this time from a neighboring system. The voice was different, colder, and filled with an urgency that chilled the crew. Mira's eyes narrowed. "We answered one plea for aid. What came was worse than war, but we can't turn away." The crew gathered, united by purpose despite the scars. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and mystery, but also hope. Their mission was far from over, As the aurora disappeared into the starry night, the words of the Zyra Prime Elder echoed. In Myra's mind, help is not always salvation. Sometimes it is a beginning. And with that, they set course for the unknown, ready to face whatever darkness waited beyond the stars.